And my name is Cam. No, no fake one today. I mean, I'm not sure if I've been introducing myself with fake names anyway, but I feel like I have. That's a thing that I'm into. Yeah. Like, I'm gonna stop you right there. Let's dispense with the Marvel stuff today. We really got off on a tangent last week. Oh, okay, cool. So I'm not a big Weezer fan, but this is easily recognizable. We're past the the Blue album. We're on to Pinkerton. So this is the part that we're going to do where everybody is like, wow, this is really good, but like commercially not as hot. But then 20 years later, people are going to listen to these and they're going to be like, those episodes are really problematic. So this is my own. I'm not going to comment on newer Weezer because I think the last full Weezer album I listened to was probably uh, Maladroit. Was that like 2005? So, but like I've heard Weezer. To me, Weezer is like a U2, where it's like if you're a Weezer fan, you're probably going to find merit in Weezer's albums past their prime. But I don't have to think about them. But I got like if you're going to go back and listen to old Weezer and be like, these guys don't deserve their success just because you don't like what they've become, I think you're not being fair, like you are with U2, right? Or like the Rolling Stones. But like now Weezer is the type of band where just like U2, I could see buying a phone with one of their albums like preloaded on it and no way to delete it. You know what I mean?
Oh, that was one of the worst moves they ever pulled.
Yeah.
Absolutely worst move. I think my microphone wasn't working earlier, by the way, so I'm kind of checking the volume now
Oh,
to
cool,
make sure
cool.
it comes through.
I think people think that Rivers like lyrical work on Pinkerton to go back to like issues surrounding them. Like I'm not a I tend to not judge like too much like past art through the lens of like our current like whatever people on Twitter think is moral. Uh, First of all, I don't listen to them because that changes for them every day anyway. But like they go back and they'll be like, well, like this is misogynistic or like this is, you know, insensitive or like, but eh, the album's like 20 years old, dude.
This is our Pinkerton album. Yeah, here we are going
Yeah.
off on this.
I
Now,
guess the album's like 15 years old. Wait, no. This album's like more than 20 years old, right? Didn't Pinkerton come out in the late 90s?
oh my gosh, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
I was saying, so I'm so old that I think of 1995 as 15 years ago.
Dude, I I don't know current bands that I think of as like modern that aren't like at least 13 years old. I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, I guess they're not actually like one of those new hip bands anymore. Their first album was in
So
1996. Like, what happened? So,
I go by the scope of like, I felt this way for a long time. Like people will be like, hey, Campbell, or like not people won't be like, hey, Campbell, nobody talks to me and asks me these questions, but like if I think of like what's the oldest song that seems pretty new, until I was about 22, 23, that would have been Buddy Holly by Weezer. Then when I was about 30, the last song that seemed kind of new, um, like that it just like kind of recently came out, that's like pretty old now. I think the song that pops into my head is like seeming like a song that recently came out is Last Night by the Strokes, which was like 5 or 6 years after that. And now, like, if you're like, what song do you remember coming out recently? I don't know why I don't listen to this group, but for some reason it seems like that Black Eyed Peas song that goes, "I got that boom boom pow," you minute. But then also, but and if you think about that song, that's the one where they go like, "I'm so 2008, you're so 2008." So, but also I think at the same time that like on that same album was that song they were like, "Tonight's the night, we'll get it up," you know. I got a feeling. I don't know why. That just doesn't seem like that long ago, but it was 12 years ago, 13 years ago.
Cam, I'm gonna send you on a what do you call that? On a rabbit hole search here, but there's a YouTube channel, an excellent YouTube channel. Well, I mean, that's not fair. I like some of the stuff they do, but I primarily really just enjoy this one song they did, where they took the music video for Boom Boom Pow by the Black Eyed Peas, and then they redid the entire song. The channel's called Bad Lip Reading, and so primarily
Oh, I know of them. Yeah.
yeah, primarily the videos are like NFL sideline videos, right? And then or like movie clips where they're like, oh, the lips are moving kind of this way. Let's make funny stuff come out of their mouths instead. And their work on the Boom Boom Pow music video, they just rewrote a song. They just wrote a new song for it, and it's called Everybody Poops. And it is amazing. It's genuinely better than any
Okay.
attempted piece of music that the Black Eyed Peas have ever put out. It's
I'm gonna keep
great. Yeah. I'm not a big Black Eyed Peas fan, by the way, as I assume that you kind of aren't either. Just taking a shot in the dark here.
Right.
But this song, Everybody Poops, go listen to it. So my audio wasn't working at the beginning, so just for sake of the audio later, snap, snap. Yeah, hey everyone, my name is Chris, and welcome to the C&C Board Game Factory. My
My name
host.
is. If you missed that whole thing, too bad for you. Now we're going to talk about boring board game stuff.
Boom! That's why you should watch the video. You should watch the video. Go to YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, thanks for being here. All right, so we just spent a lot of time talking about Weezer and the Black Eyed Peas. So, the seminal musicians, the Beethoven and Bach of our generation, if you will.
The main musicians of our generation. The big two.
All right, so Cam, we're in season 2, phase 2. We're
Season
in.
one. Well, I don't know if we should do the whole season thing because I think like this is going to be a journey, and like if we continue to do this podcast post designing a board game, like then that's like the second go around, I suppose. But like who knows if this will branch off into us like designing multiple ones of these games we've talked about on this podcast. Who knows what's going to happen? I feel like we're in phase 2 of
phase 2. We'll go with that term.
Board game creation from scratch on a podcast.
Yep. So from scratch. So the first phase was our pitches and kind of going over those things and whittling down. And so we picked 2 main games that we're going to be working on. And then we also included, it was a little bit more than we anticipated, but 4 kind of back burner games that we can work on.
It's good.
I think it's good because I've seen a lot of different designers say, like, work on what you're passionate about. And when that passion burns out, you just put it down for a little bit. Work on something that you're passionate about. So if we're passionate about grocery store, good, work on that. If you're passionate about our Impresario, the Opera House 2112, the sequel 2113, Part 2 Electric Boogaloo, then work on that for a while. So that's what we're at kind of right now. So yeah, is there anything exciting going on you want to talk about before we go into that? Anything making you go,
Yeah. Oh, no, sorry. No. Not really.
Not really.
I was just getting jazzed to talk about the games. So
Good, man.
Nothing's been making me go, I don't have any.
I will say this. I did make a little prototype for a little roll and write game. I've been enjoying just kind of working on roll and write games and stuff as you know, just on the side and stuff. And I bought these custom dice with little stickers on them. And I am beyond jazzed to have custom dice that I can work with.
Custom dice.
Custom dice are nice and will suffice, like rice.
That's a good song. We should bad lip reading that one onto a Black Eyed Peas video. Hang on 1 second. Bless me.
Bless you indeed. Have you seen there's a video of, I don't know who it is because I don't know football, but there's this football player who's being interviewed, right? And he sneezes in the middle of it. He goes, he's just being interviewed. The interviewer doesn't move the microphone out of his face. He just goes, yeah, I think the key to her success is that when we went out there, we took a couple of deep risks, you know, on fourth downs, but we, achoo, bless you, thank you. So anyway, as was, you know.
Yeah, it's Dan Marino.
I don't think that was Dan Marino. Dan Marino, to my understanding, is Caucasian.
No, well, he's not if the guy in the video you're talking about is black, because it was definitely Dan Marino. So.
All right. So anyway, you're jazzed to talk.
Big shifter.
So you're jazzed to talk about games. I just want to show off my custom dice because, I mean, look at that. That's great.
That is really cool, by the way. So do they come with, like, are the stickers easy to remove if you want to, like, put new little things on?
Yeah. And the thing is that it's one of those, like, craft sticker sets, so you cannot buy them in less than, like, a 5,000 pack. So...
Right. Oh, did you buy the stickers separately from the dice?
Yeah. I think it was cheaper that way. A set of, like, 36 dice was, like, $8, and then, like, a set of all these stickers was, like, a few bucks. I think these are, like, primarily used for, like, yard sales. Like, green tags are 50 cents. Red tags are 75 cents. This glass bowl is $80, Ned. You know, so...
Exactly.
That was a subtle Simpsons reference for our friend Jordan the tree.
Yeah, I know about as much about The Simpsons as you know about football, and about as much as I know about football. I watched all of Futurama. But the thing is, I don't remember that very well either. Like, as well. Like, I more like had Futurama playing in the background 10 years ago. It might still be on Netflix, but 10 years ago when it was on Netflix, and I was, like, playing a game on my laptop.
Sure. It's a funny enough show that you can just kind of passively enjoy it, but I think if you actively watch it, it's a very rewarding show.
Sure. I'll take your word for it. Oh, Futurama or The Simpsons? Or both?
Both. But yeah, in particular, I was talking Futurama.
Oh, sure. But yeah, so there's that. So we want to talk about board games today?
I don't know. We could talk about Weezer for another 30 minutes. Yeah, let's talk about board games, man.
We could talk about Weezer.
Everything will be all right in the end is a pretty decent album. And that's the last album of theirs I've listened to. Apparently they came out with like 3 since then, and I still think of that as the new album, and it's not. So
what about Ratitude? Actually, okay, so one last thing on Weezer is there was a very good SNL sketch recently, a couple years ago, where Matt Damon and
Matt Damon's one of those young up-and-coming actors, right?
No, so it was Matt Damon, and it was... Who was the kind of, like... What's her name? She was, like... She's really funny. She's, like, the oldest lady who's ever been on Saturday Night Live or something like that. She's in Ghostbusters. She's a real big personality. Leslie Jones.
Oh, okay.
At least I think she's like the oldest lady who's ever been, because she's like in her 50s or something.
I didn't know that.
You know, but they're at like this fancy, like they're at like this dinner party, and Matt Damon is like this big Weezer fan, and Leslie Jones is like only about like the original like couple albums, and like nobody else cares, but they get in this huge argument about whether or not Weezer is still good. there's this scene where Matt Damon says to her, like she says something about how like she's like Weezer hasn't been good since Pinkerton. I might give you Green Album, and he's like, no offense, Sonya, but drink my blood. Something like that. So funny. Anyway, like their writing is normally not as good as it. Anyway, last SNL thing, board game related. We're bringing it back to board games. There was a recent SNL sketch with Daniel Craig, maybe,
Bond?
where they're having a board game night, and there's like 8 of them there, and they're playing like they have a stack of games that are like it's like Clue and like apples to apples, and then it's like I can't remember, but it's like some kind of deep cuts. It's like hobby games that like not everybody has, and it's not like stack like Catan, Ticket to Ride. It's like stuff that's not necessarily super deep, but like you don't see on every single shelfie. You know what I mean?
It's like a New York 1901, like those type of games that are like solid, very
Maybe
easy
like a little
approachable.
heavier than that too. I can't remember what games it was, but let's just say, for example, it's like uh, Nyctophobia,
Oh, sure.
Bruges, or something. You know what I mean? Like, so like obviously somebody in the writing staff or the set staff or whatever is like has some board games. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
not like they got these at Goodwill or they went to Target and bought them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They have Catan set up, and there's like 6 or 7 of them sitting around the board, and they're playing at like this low coffee table, like 2 feet away from the couch on like all ends, and then like the it starts with them like going like Chris Red, if you know who he is, because I remember because this is kind of burned into my memory. He puts the thing down and he goes like, and that's a settlement, 8 points, I win, and then like one of them goes like, well that's about, well we've played all of our games, like I guess that's a good stopping point, and like everything is like my brain is melting because it gives me anxiety to think about playing at like a low coffee table unless you're like all sitting around the floor. Because like, can you imagine like looking down like 3 feet away at the game board you're playing on, and then like walking over there to take a turn and walking back? And then 2, they got like 7 people playing, which Catan doesn't do that. You don't play to 8 points. All of the games had player counts that were under the amount of people they had. And if they played all of those games, they've been playing games for like 12 hours. And so I commented this on like YouTube, like the comments, like all of these things, and somebody was like, yikes, dude, like I can't imagine like knowing all this. And like kind of like, who doesn't know a lot about their hobby? Like, are you like you got 1 foot, like you on both sides of the fence here with your baseball fandom? You know what I mean?
Some people don't have hobbies, man. This is one of the things that people have been talking about and joking about since the pandemic hit. People have been saying things like, I now realize that my hobbies include talking in people's faces and eating at restaurants. Like, that's all some people do. They don't have things that they're passionate about, or they're half-heartedly passionate about it. Like, people look at my brother, who is big into football. He also works in sports analytics, so he is big into football, and he's incredibly knowledgeable about football. But he can have conversations with people who are not sports analysts who are passionate about football. But there's people who are like, oh, I love football, and my brother talks to them for 5 minutes, and they're like, I'm going to go over there. Like they're just not that into the thing that they're that into, which is bizarre to me. So I don't know, man. We're hobbyists.
Well, it's crazy the broader the hobby gets, because like football, the nice thing about football is like it's not that broad of a hobby to stay current with.
Mm-hmm.
It's an incredibly broad hobby if you're looking at like past stats and like key games of 15 years ago. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, do you remember the Super Bowl winners of Super Bowl 14? 10 years before you were born. Yeah, yeah. It was definitely the St. Louis Yankees, and oh, they had such a tight match against Wall. I don't know those things.
But like to me, like football is an easy hobby to be very relevant at,
Mm-hmm.
and then like board games is pretty good because we're still a fairly small hobby. There's a lot of stuff coming out, but like you don't have to look too far back as far as like relevance goes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like the other hobbies I'd say I have like music and video games, like those are very very broad hobbies because like video games, first of all, each game there's so much information inside the packaging of every video game.
Mm-hmm.
Like to know the nuance of one game is a hobby in itself, right? And then like so many games from the last 10 years are still highly relevant, and many games from 20 to 30 years ago are still relevant. And then if
Yeah.
you take it into music, it's like maybe each band is not as big of a puzzle as like one game, but how like music is like I wonder how many songs, brand new songs were released today. Probably 50,000, you know? And then music doesn't become less relevant over time.
That is one of the strengths music has. I mean, you could spend a lifetime discovering music that came out from 1750 to 1755. A
Like it's the
lifetime.
same, like it's this like the principles are the same. Like music from then, like styles and stuff, and like some music has become less relevant because it was like not important music, but like understanding how like making something sound good works has pretty much been figured out like since we were writing stuff down.
It's true.
So I don't know, it's just crazy. Anyway, there we go. Things make you go
Things that make us go, hmm. So let's talk about some board games now. I once played 7-player Settlers of Catan at a 2-foot high coffee table, and my back hated me after. We actually used to play Dominion all the time on a coffee table.
Oof.
Yeah, I don't know. We
Well,
were
like you can
dumb.
sit like cross-legged at the table on the floor, fine.
No, on the couch. We were on the couch.
Ugh. Oh, you're hurting my back just thinking about it. And I'm sitting like with a no back, like on a footstool right now because my basement is busted, and I don't want to go sit on my kitchen table. But, Chris, ugh. By the way, here's another thing that makes you go really quick.
Things that
Dominion.
make you go, ooh.
Haven't played Dominion in a while, but I was like, I have a friend who really likes games, but is kind of like getting into them. And like I forgot what an incredibly good gateway game Dominion is, because
Yep.
like you work so many of like the skills of like getting into board games that you need, which is like working with the same concepts, but you're being fed entirely new information to you, and like figuring out how to make that work. Like Dominion, if you're a new gamer, is kind of like learning games as a seasoned gamer. It's like I already understand the mechanics of gaming, so teach
Mm-hmm.
me the new information here and how it works with what I already know about games. I think it's a like awesome. Plus, that's the foundation for every deck builder.
Oh,
So
yeah. Oh, yeah.
anyway, thank you, Donald X, author of Kingdom Builder and
Author
Dominion.
of Kingdom Builder, yep. And a bunch of other games that nobody's ever played. You ever played Nefarious? Of course you haven't.
I feel like I've heard of it. Have you played it?
I have. It's cute. It's all right. I wouldn't own it. I used to think that Donald X would probably be one of my favorite designers ever. And
Don't give it to you. X don't deliver.
Degeneration X!
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. X is a strong letter.
X is a strong letter. Malcolm,
Yeah.
you know?
Maybe the strongest letter. Like I would say top 3 strongest letters. Go. X O A.
I would say X, K, and any variation thereof, like CHK or whatever, like in German. Ach, something like that.
Letters, not
Not
phonetics. Right.
phonetics. Okay, so I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with X. I'm gonna go with K, and I'm going to go with P.
I I can make a case for mine. I don't. Okay, so X is huge. We understand X is the strongest letter.
Yeah,
A, right at the beginning of the alphabet, if you get an A on something, that's good. A number one, A plus. Okay, and then O is, I think, ubiquitous, because like everywhere you look, like X and O is a strong combo, like salt and pepper.
like hugs and
Uh,
kisses.
you're playing tic tac toe, or whether you're pressing a PlayStation controller, using a camcorder, uh, basically I don't understand how you can make a case that any letter are stronger than those three letters.
I mean, P is the ubiquitous microphone pop, the pop filter thing. Like P is just intrusive. It is
Chris,
explosive.
you're talking phonetics, bud. I'm talking letters.
I'll think about this one. I'll see if I can make the case for it.
Like I would say, like yes, as far as sounds go, and k are really strong sounds.
Right.
I would get with you on that. But like, how often like think about the letter itself. Nothing beats.
Oh, nothing beats X. We agree on that for sure.
Anyway, okay. It's a good thing we talked about all this because like I don't feel like I have too much to go over with board game thought today. um, I had a couple I think really good ideas. So let's start with. I feel like you have made some big progress in the 100-day party
Yeah.
this week, and then I feel like I have some pretty good ideas for one of our mainline games.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what else you got on the table, so I just want to open it up with a couple small ideas I had for one of our non-mainline ideas.
Okay.
So I was grocery shopping a few days ago on Labor Day weekend with my mom, and as we were going through the store, I was like, Chris and I have made a huge mistake not making this the one game we're going to do. Okay? Because like this is so relevant. I'm going up and down these aisles. But I had a couple ideas for like, you remember how you said you thought it would be a good idea if like we drafted like recipes and like different aspects of like what you're supposed to do that round?
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about like, okay, so we have like the dairy where you can go back, and we have like the meat department and the produce, but I would say that like we're really leaving behind two major aspects of what grocery stores are in present day. And what I was thinking is like, man, how cool would it be if you got a pharmacy mechanism up in there where like if you get stuck with like a prescription card, like you get like points for getting it. So some people might like go get it, but like the prescription, like you don't have to like shelve it with the polyominoes. Like a prescription can go in your purse or your jacket pocket, whatever. But you have to get it before you leave the store. And prescriptions, you're not in control of like when it's ready. So like what you could do is like you get a prescription card, and like at some point when you're in the store on one of your turns, you have to go over to the pharmacy. And then when you go over to the pharmacy, you get a little deck of cards, like maybe 3 or 4 cards, and one of them says ready, and one of them is like the rest are just blank, and you shuffle it up, and on each of your turns you flip up a card, and you can't go get your prescription until it's filled. But like the pharmacy is like way out of the way. So like, do you go there early and miss like key like getting ingredients in, or do you like make your way over there when it's convenient, but then like you might not be able to get out as quick? So that's my first idea.
Okay.
It's like this could be like a module or like even an expansion component.
I was thinking that was my thought. Yeah, it sounds like it would be a good thing to maybe not make the base,
Right,
but
right,
like
right.
an
Like,
add
I would think it would be easy enough to add into the base game, but not for like the first couple times you play.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Then the other thing I was thinking is, and this again would be a modular thing, is the other major thing we have at grocery stores now that we didn't have before is like fresh hot food.
Oh yeah.
You know
Oh
how like like Chinese food or like pizza or like like fried chicken, whatever.
Yeah, your chicken wings, your fried chicken, and your
Yeah.
fry. Yeah.
So like
Continue.
this would be like cards you pick up, um, that like you have to like go get on your way out, but there's a finite amount of them, and there's not a finite amount of other resources in the game,
Okay.
but there's a finite amount of like chicken and pizza and stuff. And so like the concept is like you're making groceries for like the week, so you have several different recipes you're working on, but like your family wants pizza tonight, and so like you get like 5 points if you get them pizza. However, there's only two pizzas there ready to go, and like other people might want that,
Because they could
and
be worth a baseline number of points,
if you just go get it.
but
But
if
then like if you have a contract for it, then you get extra points if you get it, and you lose points if you don't.
that's beautifully simple. I mean, because I did want some sort of reward system for being a first player out, right? Like some sort of bonus or
Right.
whatever. That might even be just the impetus to go, you know.
Sure. So there you go. I think those two things would be like really good, either modular things to add, and not maybe exactly in the way I said, but I think that perfectly encapsulates the grocery store experience. So because I think all of the other stuff is good, but I think these could be added to make the game have a little more depth and a little more drafting fun, but
Okay.
not like need to complicate the game. And maybe the prescription thing is a little complicated, but I don't think that like the hot food part of it is complicated at all.
No, and it's a great idea. You know what it reminds me of, and not in a copycat kind of a way, but in the Feast for Odin expansion, the Norwegians expansion that we've played, right? There's that fifth column of worker spots you can go to, and you can only
Oh,
do that spot on your final turn. But they're
yeah.
really powerful, they're really good. So it's a nice incentivizer to finish early, whereas it also has that counter incentivizer of whoever finishes last in Feast for Odin gets the first player token.
Right.
So it could be a bit of a balancing act, right? Whoever gets the hot pizza, gets 3 points. Whoever gets the hot chicken wing on the way out gets 1 point. But you could get a coupon to make either one of those resources like more worth it,
Yes.
or coupon, or whatever card you draft at the beginning. I like this. I like this. You know what I think that. So I talked with my wife Wendy about this, and I said, I realize my biggest shortcoming in this grocery game is the fact that I am not a good cook. So like I have this fundamental idea of how the game would work, right? Because I want the fruits and veggies over here, and I want like canned goods, and because I want to toy with those weight of things. Like I imagine like, a watermelon would smush anything that you set it on top of in your grocery cart. But then I realized, Cam, there's no recipes that call for watermelon. You know what I mean? That's not just a fruit salad. Like you can't like, because it would make sense to have a recipe that involved things from different. You don't need watermelon, a can of beans, and a gallon of milk for any recipe, right?
Well, in my brain, you just have like recipe cards that like take multiple things, but then you also have lower scoring like individual. So like you need a watermelon because you drafted it for 3 points. Like you
Mm-hmm.
need to get it apart, but then like you're gonna get 10 points if you make spaghetti and meatballs, having gone and gotten beef sauce and noodles.
Yeah. So some recipes did work out, but I realized the problem with having some specific things like watermelon, because I want that threat of like smushing your carton of eggs
Yeah.
with it. Is just the fact that there's in terms of like actual watermelon itself, there's no recipes. There's no spaghetti bolognese recipe that's like dice a quarter of a watermelon. So I was talking with her about it, and she said, I bet I could come up with some easy recipes. And so that might help kind of be the baseline of like what ingredients will be out there, because you could replace watermelon with like a big old like 50-pound bag of rice, because that will smush anything. And there's lots of rice recipes.
Sure. And here's another thought. I do think that's awesome. Here's another thought too: is a lot of games have like little take that mechanisms that aren't outright like evil,
Uh
but
huh.
like force the other players to do certain things. And it's like maybe if you draft the watermelon card, you get to give it to somebody else. Like you have to go get a watermelon. And if you do, you get 2 points, but if you don't, you lose 5 points. And so like now somebody's like, I gotta like take the room in my cart and like fit this stupid watermelon in here, like while I'm over here in the produce aisle getting this heavy thing while all of my other produce is light. I wanted to put my produce on the top, but now I either have to make 2 trips to produce or find a way to stack this watermelon in where it's not crushing my eggs. And you have like items like that where it's like you have to go do this.
Hmm. So you would draft a card, and what at the start of the like it says something like that reads on the top like
Yeah, like at the
start
start
a
of the round, you
round.
give this to somebody, and they have to have that in their cart. Like they add it to like their like their shopping list, and uh, and it would have less of a bonus for getting it and more of a penalty, right? So like maybe your average recipe would give you like like just say for every 3 points you get on your average recipe card, you lose a point if you don't do it. This
Mm-hmm.
would be like maybe for every point you get, if you do it, you lose 3 points if you don't.
Okay.
And so like a watermelon would be like +2 or -6, whereas another item that would be about the same size in your cart would you get 6 points for and lose 2 points if you didn't do it.
I see. That could be. That could be. So that way it is take that ish, but pretty and ends up kind of benefiting the people anyway because you're saying,
Yeah,
hey, go on this fetch quest to get some points. You're getting points, but I'm going to slow you down a bit. I'd
and
have to.
like you could play it on like a person, and you could like everybody has to have their grocery list out there probably, or I don't know if they have to have it out there, or if it's secret, but be like, I think that you're gonna have to get a watermelon, or maybe it's like something you could spring on somebody like in the middle of a round. Like you could have cards where it's like last minute remembering, like oh, like we need a watermelon. Then now you have to go over to the other side of the store, but then like it's getting really take thatty, and it's less like I don't know. The drafting already would make people be like, there's a little bit of luck in this game,
Yeah,
so
I
adding,
wouldn't want to do it in the middle of the round. Like, oh, I bought like 5 cartons of eggs, and you're like, ha ha ha, ha watermelon
adding
card.
on it is not anything. Okay, so I think that's good discussion on
On,
the the grocery store game for today. I think we have stuff to think about,
hmm.
and I think that you've been thinking about it. I've been thinking about it. Um,
Yeah, yeah, and I think that once, like, if we can come up with some recipes, I think that would be a really good task because that would be something we could both come up with. Like, what are some basic foods that fit multiple recipes? You
right.
know, and I'll try and get a list together of like some potential recipes. I mean, and these are going to be simplified, right? Kind of like, have you played Zelda Breath of the Wild?
Yeah.
Yeah, cooking in that game is like I have some rice and some butter and a giant thing of meat, and oh look, I made onigiri style rice balls or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, there's more to it than that. But guess what? Simplification,
Yeah.
abstract it out a little bit. So I think that would be a good starting focus, like figuring out what those combinations, those recipes would be like. And then I think that will drive what each of the individual ingredients would be. What do you think?
Oh, I think it's a great idea.
All right, cool. So,
I think that that's something we can think about, and I still think this is a top tier game idea. Um, so all right. So tell us about your prototype for the 100-day party.
can I show you one thing first, though? Before
Oh
that,
yeah, yeah.
on one of the main games that I've been thinking about, can I show you my initial thoughts so far on Colored Cube Factory?
Oh sure. Let's go into that because that's what I was thinking about today too. So let's
Okay.
let's have that conversation now.
So let's see if I can share my screen here. Ah, it still works. Yes. All right. And let's go into the video chat, and I will present my screen to you. All right, Cam. This is my so far layout of Colored Cube Factory. Can you see it?
No. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So I don't know the best way to do. I'm not like a graphic-y, designy kind of guy, but this is what I've envisioned. Right, 6 worker placement spots, each doing a different action, which lets you which lets you. Okay, so, sorry. Let me start this over. So these are the 6 different worker placement spots. The first one's get white cubes, the basic. Next one's get $1. The next one is get $1 or gain an additional purchase. So there'll be like 4 or maybe 5 basic types of tiles you can always purchase on your turn. The next spot is where you go to grab contracts. The 5th spot would be like a cube market, so you can pay for the basic cubes or pay for advanced higher up colored cubes or whatever. And then the last spot is to upgrade tiles in your factory. So every tile that you put in your factory, or every machine, or every like thing that you have, has a basic side, and then you can pay to upgrade it. So maybe say like your basic smasher turns 2 white cubes into the next level cube, in this case red. Like you can do that, or you can pay $3 to upgrade your smasher, and now it turns 2 white cubes into 2 red cubes. So these would be the basic 6 actions that would drive the game. So that's kind of my envisionment, right? All of these little squares on the side would be worker placement spots, so that you say it's my turn, and we each have a pool of say 5 workers or 6 workers or something like that, right? I can choose to put out as many workers as I want. So I put out 3 workers into this spot, into these spots right here, right? Which means at the end of the
All
round.
of the workers are colored cubes, also, right?
Say it again.
All of the workers are colored cubes, also, right?
They could be. They could
Yeah.
be.
Okay.
So I put out my 3 of my workers at once, right? I put them out into these spots here because I really want to try and get the majority here, because underneath each of these areas would be a special one-time bonus tile that I could add into my factory. Right? So every worker that I put into a spot will trigger whatever the corresponding action one time per worker. So if I have 3 workers here, I'm going to get 3 white cubes at the end of the round. But also, if I'm putting 3 of my 6 dudes out, I'm trying to deter you from putting out 4 workers over here, because I want whatever this bonus tile is down here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and so the bonus. Hang on. Let me see if I get this. What you're saying is that you would win a specific tile for the round, and then it would go back, and then there could be one again next time.
Yeah, so I should have visualized it, but there would be.
No, I understand what you're saying.
So yeah, so underneath each of the worker spots is also a bonus tile that you can earn that round.
Okay, so what about this, Chris? Why don't we let's take that. Let's go yes and. Let's run with that one step further and say, what if the bonus you could win, like, so let's say the same game's 5 rounds, okay?
Uh-huh.
And so say you have a stack of bonus tiles that you've pre-made, and like for rounds 1 and 2, maybe we have 15 bonus tiles, so 12 of them randomly go in random spots, in a stack, and then for rounds 3 and 4 we have 15 tiles, and then for rounds 5 we have 8 more tiles. And so like the bonuses you can win for these spots, they're different every round, and they're different every game, but they come from the same pool. You know what I mean?
I love it. Yes, and Cam.
Yeah. It's kind of like
Igizia does that.
Yeah. But like they're in different spots. So like maybe if you win, slot 1 in one game during the first round, you get an additional $2. But maybe that tile is in round 2 on spot 5 in the next time you play. And some of them let you like do immediate things for like buying things for your factory. Some of them give you cubes. Some of them give you this and that. I really love what you're doing with the majority, and I love a game where you have a ton of little workers, like Dungeon Pets or Yokohama. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a really cool setup. My thoughts were actually on the factory side of it. So I'm
Okay.
glad we're both thinking about different aspects of the game today.
Cool.
So
Good. Good.
I was thinking about contracts and then the way we move through the factory, right? Because I don't want to have anything be too convoluted. I want it to
Yes.
be thinky and stinky, but I want it to. I want the board to be like the same size. I want the components to fit. I don't want to make like these wild sprawling play areas. Uh, so I was thinking like the machines you buy, like your colored cube contracts. Like, what if your colored cube contracts move through the factory, like with your cubes?
Okay.
And here's what I'm thinking is like, if you just want to run your cubes through the factory to like be able to sell them off for money, which I think will be one of the things you can do, you just put them on like a blank, uh, blank your color, like little recessed, like cardboard thing that the cubes sit in, and when it comes out, anything that's just on your color with no contract, you just sell, right? But
Yeah.
if you get a contract, the contract has like a spot for like anywhere from like 2 to 8 cubes, like little slots in there. And what it's doing is under each slot, it shows you what color cube it wants in that spot. So say I send something into the factory with like 2 white cubes sitting in there. I push it through my first machine, and maybe that machine lets me just get 2 red cubes. And so now I'm sitting on here with, and like the thing wants a red, a green, a yellow, and a white. And so I have 2 red cubes and 2 white cubes on it now. And now I shoot it through another machine that uh, like doubles white cubes on it.
Hmm.
And it wouldn't have to be this specific, you know what I mean? It would. I think it would be more like doubling tiers. Like maybe there's 3 tiers of cubes, um, and maybe there's really only 4 color. Whatever, we'll think of that. But like as you're pushing it through, like you're manipulating what color the cubes are and like smashing some out to get other ones.
Hmm.
And so basically, you're going to get full points for your contract if your contract matches exactly what it's supposed to be. And the spatial location of the cubes, you can put the cubes in whatever spots you want. That's just to show you what you need.
Hmm.
Uh, like they don't have to. You don't have to like get things to move them around. But if you have exactly what's supposed to be there, um, then you get full points. And then if you like have one less cube than you need, or one more cube than you need, then maybe you get like a few less points. And then if it's like off by a margin of 2 on either side, then you like don't get points.
You just can't fail it or something. Okay.
Right, right. But then like most of the machines, what they would do is they would let you either create cubes, change cubes, or like what I was thinking is you could do certain machines would like crush 2 cubes of the same color to give you like a cube of a greater tier.
Hmm.
Uh, like early in the game, but like later in the game, the stuff you're getting actually like lets you crush 1 cube of a color to get another cube of any color. So you're upgrading your factory. So earlier you're doing smaller contracts. Um, I don't know. Those are just kind of my thoughts today. Is that like that would be an easy way to quantify things, but maybe I'm way off base there.
So interesting. I'm not sure that I still understand the physical flow of a contract through your factory. Moving along with cubes, because I don't know. In my imagination, it would be easier, I think, to have contracts as cards like sitting off on the side, and then I run all my cubes through, and I say, I've got enough cubes to complete these contracts. I'll shift them over, or like maybe you can even work on contracts kind of piecemeal. Be like,
Yeah,
I got 2/3 of cubes I need. I'll set them over there for now, but I can't quite fully fulfill them. So I
here's the
have
thing.
so I have to put the cubes in
After
storage.
explaining that, like you're right.
Oh.
I thought it might be an interesting, like different than like a different way to do something than like other contract fulfillment games have worked. But like the more I think about how you would do it, like the less excited I am about that concept.
I see. So
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, what it does make me think of, though, actually is about. You can still see my screen, right? I still have
Yeah.
the screen share on. So what it does make me think about is some of the things that I came up with. So like You okay, so with if you have a bunch of if you run your cubes through your factory and you have a bunch of cubes like set, you're like, woohoo! I'm like 2/3 of the way to the contract. You have limited storage because whoops, because storage is a thing that you have to take into account. You
Sure.
have to spend money for warehousing space, this, that, and the other. So one of the basic tiles that you can always purchase would just be more storage in your facility. And so, like a basic storage tile allows you to store 2 cubes of any color. If you pay to upgrade it, pay $3 to upgrade it, you have 5 spaces of storage available. That way, if you don't have a contract 100% filled at the end of one go through your factory, you want to try and buy some better storage options so that you can say, you know what, I upgraded all the way to like two green cubes and a yellow cube. Like I need to keep those because if you don't have enough storage, you have to sell every single cube for $1.
Ah,
But the other idea that I had, Cam,
yeah.
was and if you want to move cubes from your storage into contracts, you have to buy carts. So that's what these cart tiles are here. You'd have to buy carts that allow you to move 2 tiles over to a contract. Or upgrade a cart or something like that. Maybe move all cubes from one storage space out to contracts. Something like that, right? Because
Sure.
it's less efficient to have to store things and then pull them out of whatever, right?
I like this. I think this is really great.
Cool. Now here's
Um,
oh,
nice. Yeah, I would love it if you'd share this file with me so I can take a look at it.
okay.
With that said, I didn't think we'd have enough to talk about today, but sounds like we still have an entire game to talk about, and we're at like an hour.
Okay.
So, did you have any other major thoughts about this one today?
I did really quick.
Okay.
So, so these majority these bonus spaces for having the most workers on a space at the end of each round, right? You go through, you fire off the action one time for every worker that you have there, and then if you have the most workers, you also get whatever the bonus is. So my thought of the bonus would be that some of them would be tiles, like special tiles that you can add to your factory. That's how you get some of those really good smashers that you're talking about, right? One
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
cube, transform it into 1 cube of any color or something like that, right? Awesome.
Right.
But the other thing you could have to one thing I love in games, heavier games like this, is when you develop individual player powers. So rather than at the start of the game you're dealt your player power, right? You could hire employees, and so that's what this page here is. Would be a list of like, you know what I mean, like special type of employees you could get. So like if you got the negotiator, every time you fulfill a contract, you earn 2 extra victory points. And this, so these would be bonuses that you would earn from having majorities in spaces. You
Ooh,
could
love it.
you can have a machinist who's really good at upgrading, so you get a discount, minus $1 or $2 when you flip a tile over to its better side. Salesman, when you sell off cubes, you don't sell them off at $1 a piece. Instead, you sell it at $1 per the level, right? So a green cube is a level 4 cube, so you get $4 for selling off a green cube instead of your like crappy conciliatory $1, right?
Right.
A big worker, which counts as 2 for majorities when you place that in the spot. An efficient worker, which counts as you put it in a spot. It doesn't count for 2 for majorities, but you get to take that action in additional time. Things like that.
Ooh,
And
I
then,
love that.
and then like end of game, I was thinking something like this, where all 6 spots at the end of the game, instead of having like factory tiles that you put out, like guaranteed the last round, all 6 of these are like end game scoring victory point employees.
Oh, I love this, dude.
So like CFO would give you 1 victory point per contract that you fulfilled during the game. VP of HR gives you 1 victory point per employee that you've hired over the course of the game. Like that way, the last round is maybe always kind of set within these 6, or you have more and you randomize which ones you have. Something that makes that end game just like pop a little bit extra.
So what if? Okay, so let's think about this. So what if? So let's just operate off of the game as 5 rounds right now. I think that's a really solid amount of time to play a game.
Yeah.
You know, so what if we were looking at, like, we create about 15 uh, employees for rounds 1 and 2,
Mm-hmm.
about 15 employees for rounds 3 and 4, and about 8 employees for round 5. Um, that might be a little high, but like maybe a couple of these employees appear twice. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. But then like let's make the bonuses entirely employees, and that's how you get employees is by maximizing up somewhere. You know what I mean?
Okay. I was thinking
And
like I was thinking of the 6 spaces. Maybe each round 3 would be employees, 3 would be like really good factory tiles. Maybe like a blend or something like that. But I think there's a lot of room to toy. They could all 6 be employees.
I would okay. So here's why I would rather have it, and I know we're kind of going overboard, um, but here's kind of why I'd rather have it all be employees, is because in a game where I'm building a factory, I'm fine with like it being up in the air whether or not I win a bonus for later in the game.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not fine if I'm counting on getting a certain factory piece that's the linchpin for me completing a contract, and then somebody gets it. You know what
Because
I mean?
they dumped 4 workers on that
Right,
space
right.
unexpectedly.
But
Okay.
like as far as factory pieces goes, like I don't think that's a good idea. But I do think that if it was going to be partially employees and part something else, it would be like stuff you could live without, like a little bit extra money, or
Part one-time bonus type things.
yeah. But I think that it would be great as employees too. Um,
Okay. So
if it were
like
just all employees, but I don't I wouldn't want to lynch any I wouldn't want to attach any like contract fulfillment keys to doing it, because either you're going to make sure you have your contract taken care of, and then the bonus doesn't matter to you and you're just adding a piece to your factory that you'll use next round, which in a game this short, like with 5 rounds or whatever, I think like that's wasted, and so you
mm-hmm.
don't really care about that. I mean, unless you think you really do. But then or you're gambling, and then you're like upset that you couldn't finish your 3 contracts because Rodney got that piece that you thought you were going to get or you really wanted to get. So I think they're either devalued or hypervalued if it's factory pieces.
This
Are we on the same page?
I think that's a great point, Cam. I think that's really good. So what we could do then, because I imagined that in terms of like the factory pieces you could purchase, they would be like 4 basic ones, and then like
Yeah.
these bonuses would be the fancier ones. But you could just make it so that there's like 2 or 3 tiers worth of these tiles that you can buy: storage cards, basic smashers,
Yeah.
basic fabricators. I think a fabricator would turn 1 cube into 2 cubes, right? Or a fabricator would produce like 1 white cube at the start of every round, type of a thing, right?
Yeah.
But you could have another row of things that you could purchase right below it, which would be like duplicators and double upgraders and just you just make all of those tiles for your factory purchasable. You just make
Well,
them more expensive.
You've played Orleans, right?
I have once, yeah.
And you've played Kalis or no?
I have both
And,
editions.
and you've played Tricerion.
Mm-hmm.
I would go with a concept that is relevant in all 3 of those games. And for the unique stuff, I would just have a stack of it there. And when you're getting a higher level component, you can just go through the deck and pick the one you want. So you don't need to allot a ton of board space to it, but it lets people be like, oh, I'm going to try to build this piece. And I'm not saying this is something we need to. I wouldn't die on this hill,
Mm-hmm.
but I would say as we're designing it, I think it's easier to start with the concept that everything's available to those who want it,
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe, but then it wouldn't take up a ton of board real estate that way either if they were just all on a stack. You know what I mean?
So you don't have to have like 12, 17 different stacks. They could just be like,
Right. Yeah, you just have a level 2 stack, a level 3 stack, a level 4 stack, and like they just have higher costs, or maybe you have to upgrade a basic fabricator into a level 2 fabricator, and so on and so forth by taking the upgrade action. but I think that while we're designing these fabricators and smashers, if
Mm-hmm.
that's what we're going to call them right now, I think we go in with the concept that those will be available to you on a first come first served basis. And then if we feel like we need to make it more random or dial it back or have it come out in a certain order, that's something we can mess with once we've like determined what seems to be better than other pieces, you know?
Cam, this is great. This is, I think this is that's a great point. So cool. Thanks for that.
Well, so I'm glad our brains kind of work together in that you seem to do a lot of thinking about like the mechanics of the game from a like how to play it standpoint. It seems like my role is more just in the like the what do we do to make it efficient standpoint so far.
Well, this is good. This is some good
Yeah.
stuff. So yeah, I need to make all of these shareable with you. Do you have Excel on your
Uh,
computer?
I think I can open an Excel spreadsheet. I don't think I own Excel, but I don't think that stopped me from viewing anything.
Okay, because that might be a limitation. Is that I'm very comfortable due to being an accountant working in Excel. So
Right.
so literally all of the prototypes and stuff that I've made have been in Excel because it's really easy to make like it has this like insert icon thing. So I
Sure.
literally can just like I need an icon for something, and I like type in victory, and it pulls up these like wreath icons. So like, ah, perfect. I'll
Oh,
use that.
that's incredible. Yeah,
Yeah,
Excel's way better than Sheets, bud.
yeah. Like if I need a factory, boom, I just type in factory in this icon search. So it's super easy to work in. But I'll have to figure out a way that is easy for you and I to collaborate in. And I think figuring out how to collaborate across the internet will be a fun struggle. But so far, it's working really well.
Okay, so uh, we're at about 3:15. So we've been recording about an hour and 15 minutes.
Hmm.
Here's my suggestion: is why don't you and I play your prototype of 100
The 100 day party.
100 this weekend, and next Friday, let's deconstruct our thoughts on it and and then talk about that game for 20-30 minutes instead of like packing it in like 5 minutes right now.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. So
Not that I don't want to hear about it right now. It's more that like I just feel like if we stay within like the under an hour and a half thing, that's better, more easily digestible for an unedited podcast.
for sure.
Than,
Cool. I'm just showing it on the screen right now.
oh
Uh,
yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, I would have time to play it. Um, Probably Sunday evening or Monday anytime,
okay.
or yeah, those are the main times. Either of those work for you? Do you think?
Sunday evening would be tough, but I can make that work. We could talk about this
Well, like I
off the
said, I'm free
podcast.
all Monday for the
Okay.
most part too.
Maybe I could probably
Um,
make Monday work. Yeah.
and then I might have some freedom tomorrow. Oh, but if we're talking about it next Friday, then I have time Tuesday, I have time Wednesday, I have time Thursday also. So
Perfect. Yep, I'm free those days. So awesome. I think this was a really good discussion. I'm excited to crank out some ideas, and I'll get this all shareable and stuff with you. So
I'm
color.
excited. I had more to talk about than I thought about. Like even I thought. I really am jazzed on what they. I know we're still like very low on concept on Colored Cube Factory, but I love the worker majority
Hmm.
thing. I think that'd work great, and I love the idea of having all your workers be colored cubes, but like they would be a different size, I think, than the ones you can get. That way you don't get them mixed up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's where you could get some of the really fun color cubes. Like I'm the fuchsia player. You're the whatever. And so obviously, down the line there are of course like color blindness issues and stuff with having nothing but cubes on the board. Tons of games do it, but there's ways that you can pick colors that are less confusable. You mentioned
Right.
size being a thing, so even just toying with like some of those physical dimensions, you could play with this cube thing, but still make it more accessible for different players.
And
So
yeah, the level 2 cubes are a little bigger than the level 1s, and the level 3s are a little bigger, and the level 4s are a little bigger.
oh, Terraforming Mars does that.
Hmm.
Yeah, which is brilliant
So yeah,
because yeah, okay, I like
yeah,
this, man.
and then Terraforming Mars also, like, the resource cubes are like painted or
Hmm.
like whatever that they're coated, but then like the player ones are translucent. So like we could even deal in like a wood and plastic sort of thing, or
Yeah, yeah, it's all about the cubes. It's like it's just
yeah,
like the
because the Terraforming Mars cubes aren't really cubes. The money cubes, they're like rounded cubes, and I'm thinking we're talking hard cube for color
hard
cube.
corner cubes. Yeah, have you
Yeah,
played?
like if you throw the cube at somebody and it turns just right, it could poke their eye out.
Have you played the early editions of Smartphone Inc?
I have played Smartphone Inc. I don't know if I've played the early editions of it. I don't really know what that means.
The one that didn't just come out like last month on the Kickstarter, like a few weeks ago or whatever. So if you
I
played it,
played it about a month ago, probably.
okay, maybe. So I don't know how the Kickstarter quality is, but the first print run that they did that was like super hard to find. I played it because someone else paid buku bucks for it
Right.
because that's my mo right there. But they were like laser cut, like they had just like a long string or like a long tube of rectangular prism, and they like laser cut it or something like that. And those corners were so sharp, man, that you could like pick it up wrong and be like, ah, dadgummit,
Oh man, dad gum level, huh?
dadgum level. So, all right, man,
Wow.
this is a super fun episode.
Yeah, dude, very very good. C&C Board Game Factory.
Am I doing it right? Am I doing
I
it
don't know.
right?
Like, I'm not. I don't think I'm a good dabber because I just like I'm like an old guy and I just put my face like into my arm. But I think that's what they do, right? But I think there's like more. I think yeah, I kind of try to like actually make a good. But like I actually like hit my. I don't think you're actually supposed to. Maybe you're supposed to touch, but I think it's more of just like a.
I I don't know the answer, but we're
Whoever
CNC
came
Board Game
up, whoever
Factory.
came up with that as like a victory symbol, they did a pretty good job. Like it's pretty like the putting your arms like in the same direction. I think is cool. I don't know about like the lowered head part of it though, but I do think it going like yeah, like we've been doing that for a while. You know,
It.
I
I don't
think it's
know.
been more.
I'll have to ponder my thoughts on the dab as I will ponder my thoughts on the strongest letters.
Yeah, the strongest letters is more important. So, all right, well.